This is Shining Moment number 14, Mothers Who Did What It Took. Did you know that beauty is all around us? It's not just in nature or in music, but it's in each of us, women and mothers too. And I'm not just talking about outward appearance. I believe that beauty is as unique as each of us are. God created each of us to have our own individual fingerprint, so to speak, with unique characteristics, strengths, and even ways that we do things. No two mothers are exactly alike, and that is a good thing. We can value our own individual flair and not compare ourselves to anyone else. But what makes women extra beautiful is the synergy we gain from gathering together. When we encourage each other, learn from and with each other, value ourselves and contribute our own special light, while graciously receiving others' light as well, work hard together, include each other, and love God together, there really is a power that is unmatched and, dare I say, holy. I love getting to know different women and seeing how they mother in their own way, and I am uplifted and inspired by their example. And this is why I have created the Shining Moment segments each month on my podcast. Whether you mother in big or quiet ways, whether you feel like a hot mess or organized and trucking away, you have a beautiful story and an incredible light that shines for others to see and glorify God. If you are ready to share your story and your light, reach out and let me know. It would be amazing to have you on the show. For now, thank you for joining me as we are inspired by yet another radiant mother. Hello, and welcome back to another Shining Moments episode. I'm so happy to be with you. I have a confession to make, a little truth bomb. So my podcast following is still kind of slow, and because of that, it has been a bit challenging to keep finding guests to come on the show each month to interview. And I am open to the Lord's process. I am not complaining at all, but I am also not the kind of person to give up. So I've kind of put together a different plan for my Shining Moment segments. I will still work hard to gather guests to come on every other month, but I'll also be sharing stories from moms throughout history that have helped shape the world in their own unique ways. Some are famous, and many of them are unsung heroes, but I will share the different ways that mothers in general are heroes every day through the eyes of these stories. And each mother does the things that will help her family and those around her to have the best chance at life. I will follow kind of a topic format. So there will be a couple different stories that I'll share. And today I wanted to kind of burst in with several different stories because I just got so excited when I started researching this. And it kind of came at a good time too, because I've been feeling under the weather, and it's been a joy to be able to just cuddle up and read about these amazing women. So with today's topic, the different stories that we'll share highlight how mothers in general do what it takes to care for her family. So let's get started. The first one is Sojourner Truth. You may have heard her name before because she is a very prominent figure in the abolition of the slaves in the South and in women's rights. But I wanted to share a particular story that shows the incredible force for good she had even in her own family. When she escaped to freedom, she was only able to take her infant daughter and had to leave the other 4 children behind. She later learned that one of her really young sons was illegally sold into slavery. Any mother would be extremely anxious at this realization and care for the particular son, wanting him to be okay, let alone all the other kids that were still in danger. But I can only imagine the added fear that she had of being Black in an area where that wasn't seen as a good thing. And she may have worried herself that they would enslave her again and put all of her children in greater jeopardy. But here's the amazing thing. She didn't let that fear take over. In fact, she confronted the slave owners. They didn't take any heed for her words at first. They thought, oh, she's just blowing a bunch of smoke. But she was able to find her courage. In her autobiography, she wrote, I have no money, but God has enough, or what's better, and I'll have my child again. Can you hear the resolve in her voice right there? Just amazing. She was able to find an abolitionist family to help her sue the slave owners. And she won, even better than that. She was able to successfully bring her young son back to her. In fact, she was the first Black woman in history to sue a white man and win. Isn't that incredible? I am just inspired by her courage to put her own fears for her own life aside to take care of her family, especially one of her children who needed her. She stood up for what was right, and she was able to make sure all of them were safe. Such a good story. The next one is Nancy Edison. Lately, I've had a great interest in Thomas Edison and his life, especially with the fact the most famous quote attributed to him was, I have not failed. I have just found 10,000 ways that won't work. Have you heard it? You probably have in some variation or another, right? This inspires me because he didn't give up at setback number 2 or 30 or 200 or even 2,569, right? He kept going. He was determined. Funding ran out. Political favor ran out. The press stopped supporting him. But all of that storyline can be shared another time. What is additionally interesting about him is the fact that his teacher actually said that he was addled, which means mentally ill or incompetent. And as is true for most mothers who see such amazing potential in each of their children, Thomas Edison's mother, Nancy Edison, wouldn't accept what his teacher called him. Instead, Nancy decided to homeschool him, helping to guide him in his learning in a way that worked for him. The theory stands that they think he had dyslexia. And so she helped him learn not just how to read, not just how to finish his schooling. She helped him learn how to form the grit and perseverance needed to bring us the incandescent light bulb. Something that is important for us to have this whole screen right here that you're watching me on. Thomas said of her, my mother was the making of me. She was so true, so sure of me, and I have felt I had something to live for, someone I must not disappoint. I am so grateful for her example of not just seeing the potential in her child, but helping him see it, helping him push hard to achieve it, regardless of the odds that were against him. In fact, using those odds that were against him helped him gain added strength and grit to be able to perform what he needed to do. The next story is of Mary Kay Ash. You may have heard of the cosmetic line Mary Kay, but do you know who the founder was? Mary Kay Ash actually was a single mother and was working in sales at a home products company to support her 3 children. But she was repeatedly passed over for promotions, despite her being one of the top sales directors. So she took the experience and knowledge that she gained from this company, and she launched her own company, giving hundreds of thousands of women the opportunity to work as sales consultants from home too, being one of the first companies in the direct sales market. I loved this because in the time that she was working in the 60s, women didn't often receive higher accolades. And not that that's super important, but the ability to affect change was limited for women. And not only was Mary Kay very devoted to caring for her children and providing them the necessities of life, but she saw a bigger need for women in general. and being able to care for their families, but also be able to support themselves and do something that meant more to them and to give back in ways that could help financially support their family too. I'm excited about this next one. It is Alberta King. One of my favorite social heroes ever is Martin Luther King Jr. I have always admired his ability to see the potential in everyone to get along, to see each other by the content of their character, regardless of their outward appearance. And I highly respect his leadership abilities to teach others how to work through conflict with respect for each other rather than using force, anger, or violence. This meant a great deal to me as I studied about him because the odds were stacked against him. In fact, he was killed for it, but he didn't let that stop him. So then it made me question, what was his childhood like and who was his mother, that he would have such convictions and courage and strength to do what was needed in the face of adversity. Well, Alberta King was huge in the church community. She even played the organ, something I do too sometimes. But she worked tirelessly to be as involved as she could in the community's important needs, but also in each of her children's nurture and care. She taught her children with a healthy sense of self-respect and to understand the difference between social conditions, like segregation, as opposed to the natural order of things, which segregation is not. Dr. King wrote in his biography, "She made it clear that she opposed this system and that I must never allow it to make me feel inferior. But at this time, Mother had no idea that the little boy in her arms would years later be involved in a struggle against the system she was speaking of. She just knew, as she was raising her children, that it was important for them to know how infinite their worth was and how important it was that they stand up for not just their own personal worth, but the worth of others around them too." And boy, what a difference that made. The next story is about Yochebed. I have no idea if I'm saying her name right, but as I've thought about the different scriptural mothers who may be good examples of this particular theme, mothers who did what it took, one of the most prominent mothers that I could think of was Moses' mother, Yochebed. Right around the time when Moses was born, there was this really strict edict by the Pharaoh that called for the death of all newborn Hebrew males. Moses' mother desired to keep her precious baby safe, so she placed him in a basket and set him afloat down the Nile River. What? As if that was the way to keep him safe, right? Except she also had faith and trust in God. So she pushed this little basket down the Nile River with all the animals, all the infestation, all the turbulent waves that went all around, trusting that God would protect him and praying for his life. He was later found by the Pharaoh's daughter, and so he was reared in the Egyptian court to later one day save all his people from slavery. But the faith and courage his mother must have had to trust God to keep him safe, that was awe-inspiring. And my last example was Wilma Mankiller. Okay, so when I was researching all these different amazing moms, many of whom I still haven't spoken yet, I learned about someone I had never heard about before or even thought to discover in my study. I was thrilled to see her dedication and honor for women. Wilma Mankiller became a civil rights activist in the 1960s, advocating for Native American rights. And she served in her community as well as being a dedicated mother to her daughters. At her memorial, one of her daughters said, "Even though we grew up with little to no money, we knew we were the richest people on earth because we had each other. Mom taught us how to laugh, how to dance, how to appreciate Motown music, to be a humble servant to our people, to love one another unequivocally, and to cherish each and every moment we spend together as a family." This made me think a little bit. This is an amazing legacy for Wilma, right? For her daughters to feel rich regardless of the financial situation and to really have strong values of serving, of loving, of family togetherness. But I thought about her as a mom and what struggles she must have been going through to try and finish her education, to try and serve her community at large, as well as take care of her own children. She probably had sleepless nights where she worried, am I doing what I should be doing? Am I doing enough? Am I doing the wrong things? Should I be switching my focus? All of those worries that are so prevalent to moms, right? But she let the moment by moment experiences add up. She took care of the things that weighed on her heart. She taught her daughters how to serve and love and lead with care. And she focused on how to make her own difference in the world. So I share this as the final example, just to bring it all back and tie this all up with a neatly wrapped bow. Whether or not our name is known throughout our community as the first person to blah, 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 our influence matters. We make a difference. And when we choose to do what it takes to serve our children, to lead them one step at a time toward their Father in heaven, to keep pushing ourselves toward the goals that we've created, and to partner with God on serving Him the best way we can, that is an extraordinary mother. And that is the kind of mother who makes such a big difference that the ripples will continue on for a long time. Mother, you are one of those women. You have within you to take those little and big moments with your children and make a difference in their lives. To listen to them, to guide them, to take care of them and their needs, but also to inspire them to grow and make their own difference in the world. You have a difference to make in the world. You have gifts and talents that the Lord has given you, and you have a heart yearning to serve in a special way. It doesn't look like anybody else's. It's specially made for you. And when you push yourself to do what it takes to serve God and yourself and your children and all the others you're meant to serve, that is when you have the fullness of joy that has been promised to you. I'm sending you lots of love, sweet mama. Take care.
If you like my mom's show, please leave a review to let her know.
I sure hope you felt uplifted and inspired by this episode. The best way you can thank me is to leave a review on Apple Podcasts. It warms my heart in so many ways to hear that you feel your incredible worth and beauty through my messages. So go ahead over to Apple Podcasts and take a minute to share what this means to you. And if you know of anyone else who would also benefit from a little boost to their day, please share this episode with them, either by adding it to your stories on social media, tagging me at kirstenbaxter.coach, Kirstin, or by copying the link and texting it to that special someone who could use a little extra pep in their step. Sending you lots of love, sweet mama.